Welcome back to the Nonprofit World TV show. We are here now with Keith Weston, our guest. Keith
Hi.
is the Executive Director of the Waterbury Habitat for Humanity. Keith, welcome. We're glad to have you on our show.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Sure. I was very interested to find out what's going on in Waterbury with Habitat for Humanity. Back in what seems like another lifetime, I used to be a day supervisor for the Hartford area Habitat for Humanity back before I had children.
Okay.
And that was a very rewarding experience. Tell me about what the Waterbury chapter does in terms of engaging volunteers, whether it's day supervisors or other ways.
Yeah. Well, we have an array of volunteer opportunities. Everybody wants to come with a belt and nails and hammers on construction day, but before we even get to construction day, it takes a lot of other work. We have 7 people on a family selection team.
Okay.
And once or twice a year, we go out and we interview families that qualify for a Habitat house and we do home interviews, and we kind of prioritize by where they're currently living, and in the neighborhood. If it's a dangerous neighborhood, kids need a safe place to play, that type of thing. So volunteers to select families is a big one. We have a volunteer coordinator, just happens to be my wife Elaine for 5 years, but she's the one that not only gets volunteers on build days, but also volunteers for committees and teams. So we kind of like to have teams. We also have a construction team of all volunteers, and most Habitat affiliates have a construction manager that's paid. We have a construction manager that's strictly a volunteer. And he has 3 jobs.
Wow.
He works for IBM, he has a construction business, and then he gives us every Saturday of his life.
That's wonderful.
Yes, and Steve is a wonderful volunteer. But we're always looking to, one of our affiliate goals is to create 2 construction teams so we can give people some time off and rest.
Sure.
But we are kind of in our infancy. And I also have volunteers come in and do all the data entry in our computers, update our websites and Facebooks and that type of thing.
So really you can use volunteers in a number of capacities, whether it's marketing, data entry, construction. Like you said, if they want to be Bob the Builder, they can put the tool belt on. I think one of the more rewarding ones sounds like the family selection as well. That sounds like a really interesting area to be a volunteer as well. So there certainly doesn't seem to be any shortage of volunteer opportunities. And as I understand it, you're the only paid staff at the Waterbury chapter, and even that has been sort of a recent change. So
yeah, it was quite interesting. I was asked to become a board member late 2013, and they were finishing up a build, and they were running out of money, and I kind of like to knock on doors and ask people for things. So to get the build finished, I got on the board, and then I went with a couple other folks, and we got countertops donated. We got everything we need to finish the job donated because we were out of cash. Waterbury's a wonderful community. We can get tons of volunteers, but we don't have the corporate headquarters that a lot of our sister affiliates have. So most of our donors are individuals. Up to a few years ago, our schools, high schools, would raise money. Watertown High one year raised $8,000. That was our largest donation.
That's wonderful.
And to build a brand new Habitat home from scratch, in the Waterbury area, we're looking at $90,000 to $110,000 of cash.
It's a lot of money.
And we usually get $40,000 or $50,000 of goods donated. So it ends up costing. So what we decided to do, there was a market to rehab existing homes. We recently had a donor lose a husband, and they were renovating a house. They no longer, the surviving spouse didn't want to continue. So she donated the house to Habitat. We have a family selected for that home. One of the banks had a foreclosed home, and they donated that. So we're currently going into the renovation. We can renovate a home for $30,000 to $50,000 and get it done quicker and get more families. So that's kind of what the board wants me to do, is kind of pursue the renovation of existing homes. And it also improves the neighborhoods in Waterbury and the existing community.
And it sounds like it's a quicker fix if you do have a family that, for instance, is, as you said, maybe living in a dangerous neighborhood where the children can't play outside. If there's a home that can be renovated much quicker than building one from scratch, that seems to make
yeah, we usually can
sense.
renovate a house anywhere in 16 to 22 build days. Currently, we build Saturdays. We are trying to expand to Wednesdays and Saturdays, as we have engaged some of our corporate partners are giving people release time to come out during the week. So we have to be flexible. But I had to find more construction volunteers that can work during the week.
Wednesdays,
on
right,
Wednesdays.
right.
So we're growing rather quickly, quicker than I thought we would.
How about retired individuals? Do you get some retired individuals who want to come and help, work on a Wednesday?
Yeah, it's quite a phenomenon. A couple of our newest construction members are retired, and they're there. They'd be there 5 days a week. They just enjoy getting out. One of the problems we have with retired volunteers, they like to go to Florida for the winter.
Right.
So when we're renovating, we can work throughout the winter months. Usually when we're building from new, we start in April, try to finish in November.
Sure.
But so we have to have a lot of volunteer base to keep it going.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about Habitat for Humanity, the organization.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the history of the organization. I understand it was started in Georgia. A lot of people think that Jimmy Carter started it. He didn't really. Can you tell us a little bit?
Yeah, it actually Millard Fuller. He and his wife were having some marital issues. He was a very wealthy, self-made businessman by the time he was 29 years old. And by the time he was 40, his wife felt that he had lost touch with reality and threatened to leave him. And she did leave. And he went to New York, found her, brought her home with the promise that he would divest himself of his business, and he and her would go into study. And they went to a place in Tennessee called Koinonia, and this was during just after Martin Luther King time. And Koinonia, their whole operation is giving back to the community, and so out of that came Habitat for Humanity in the mid 1970s. So it is a faith-based organization from the Christian church. However, we do not require any of our partner families to affiliate with any one or religion. All we do is ask them to partner with us during the build. So they have now built, as I was studying for today, over 600,000 homes. They've affected almost 4 million people worldwide. So we don't only build here in Waterbury and in our local communities, but we also build internationally.
I understand that you've had the opportunity to go international and build in some of the other countries.
Yeah, I kind of got the bug. My first build was in 2008 in El Salvador. And the company I was working with at the time had sponsored a whole community. And we were supposed to work in this community, but the rains didn't leave soon enough, and it was flooded when we arrived. So they put us in a village, and we started 2 new homes from scratch. And in El Salvador, you don't use power tools. Everything was done with hand tools, and you dig ditches. We were building 600 square foot homes, and the family would buy them from the affiliate for about $11,000 US, and they would pay a 30-year mortgage interest free. That's kind of the Habitat model, is that our families engage with the build, and it can be anywhere from 250 sweat equity hours to 500 hours. That's kind of what a family would use as a down payment. They come to the closing with some cash, and then they get the keys and become a homeowner after they meet all these requirements. They also go through 50 hours of home ownership education, paying bills, how to repair a home, financial literacy. And that's kind of a requirement of all Habitat families, not just Waterbury. So that's kind of the big picture of Habitat.
Yeah, and I think it's nice. I certainly, when I was engaged as a volunteer, that was one of the nice things, was to meet the homeowners and, you know, to work with them on their home. It certainly is nice to sort of expand everybody's horizons and get people to meet one
Yeah,
another
I think
as well.
to be the executive director, what really set me on fire was in El Salvador, in Paraguay, in Canada, in Montana. When you go on these other builds, the family unit is a family unit, and it's all about family. And even in El Salvador and Paraguay, I kind of think of it like the 70s in the United States. The communities are so tight-knit. You're not only building for the family, you're building for the entire community.
Sure.
And you're building for different reasons. Paraguay, you were building for safety more than anything else. Paraguay, most of the men were killed in wars in the late 1800s. The women actually kept the society going, but some very bad habits came out of that. To rebuild their community, women would have more than, or men would have more than one woman to
Had multiple households.
multiple households to build the population back up. Well, that is kind of ingrained in their society today. So we were building homes with locks on bedroom doors. It was just kind of a different perspective.
So it gave you that different perspective.
Gave us, yep.
Yeah. So I understand that you had a career before as a financial advisor. I could see why you would be drawn to Habitat because, of course, not having a home, you can't be financially secure if you don't have your own home. What else drew you from your former career to your current role as executive director?
Well, I think, well, first of all, the company that I worked for, Thrivent Financial, they empowered us to get involved with Habitat. And I came to the point in life where, as my 60th birthday, I was looking to do more for the community than I could as a financial advisor. And I'm a lucky guy. My daughter has an MBA and took my business over. So it was easy to step away, transition. But I think it's kind of my faith growing up in church, and my wife, we've always been involved with feeding people, clothing people, and housing. And what I like about Habitat, we are empowering people. We're not giving handouts, we're giving hands up. That's kind of our motto.
Sure.
And empowering people. And you know, we've been very blessed with our own resources, and to be able to share those resources and live with a little bit less so someone can have a little bit more. That's kind of the Weston, my wife and our premise, to give back to the community. And I always wanted to be help run an organization, a nonprofit organization. This just seemed to be the perfect fit, and the opportunity was the right time.
Sure.
My goal is to get this thing going in Waterbury in about 3 years, so we can hire a real executive director that has strong management skills, can manage multiple staff, and that type of thing.
Well, you are a real executive director. You mean maybe somebody who will have the energy to take it to the next chapter.
Next one, yeah. I'm more of a creator, though. I understand my skill
Then a
set,
maintainer,
and it's going to get so big that I would not be able to be that person at some point. And I'm okay with that.
Talk to us about one of the programs I noticed that you do is called A Brush with Kindness.
Brush with Kindness,
Yes.
yeah. And these are usually one-day projects where we get groups of volunteers from schools or church groups. We've had neighborhood associations where we'll find 4 or 5 families that could use some leaf raking, maybe painting a deck, repairing wheelchair ramp, cleaning gutters, that type of thing. We usually try to do a project in the spring, a day in the spring and a day in the fall.
And it's a great team building exercise for this group, whether it's a work group or a youth group or whatever.
Yep, Wolcott High School Honor Society students engaged in 4 projects in one day this past May. And we had over 50 students out throughout the community doing a brush of kindness.
So you mentioned that your wife has actually had a longer history with the Habitat in Waterbury than you. She's been the volunteer coordinator for 5 years, which is amazing. So does she go out and actually recruit the volunteers, or is that more of what you do and then she kind of figures out what to do with them?
Yeah, she's kind of the scheduler.
Sure.
So she's emailing and coordinating people for our current builds as we go. She also serves on the family selection team and does home visits.
Speaking of families, how do you find your families? Do they come to you, or you have to go looking for them?
Well, it's interesting. Before they hired me, we would have to go out and search them, and we would contact most local congregations. But we also would send a note home with some of our inner city schools. And the last 3 families came from that note.
Wow, that's
the Vargas
great
family, who is an owner on Country Club Road, they took ownership in December 2015. Never thought they would be able to own a home. They always wanted to, and their 10-year-old son came home with a pamphlet. She went online, filled out an application. Our family selection team read the application, called her for a home visit, and about 3 weeks later told her she was selected. And
what an amazing story. Whose idea was it to put those in the backpacks? I think that's brilliant.
That was the family selection team.
That was wonderful.
Yeah, it is a great idea, and we'll continue to do that.
The other thought is even in urban barbershops and hair salons and so forth. That would be a great place to
take
put
that one back.
To your committee as well.
But now people are starting to hear about us.
Sure.
So what I do is I kind of play the intake. We don't open up registration till February, but people are calling. So what I'll do is have them mail an application, and I'll give that to the family selection team, and with a letter back to the family saying that February will be our next selection date.
Do you have a website that you'd like to tell our viewers about so that
yes, www.waterburyhabitat.org, and you can go to waterbury.org at Facebook as well. Our website's currently being renovated, but you will find how to donate there. You'll find my phone number, and you'll also find volunteer forms, how to sign up as a volunteer as well. And also, if you want to apply for an Habitat home, you can also find the form online.
Terrific. So you were mentioning right before we came on air that there was an unfortunate thing that happened with one of your houses. I think it was your 5th house that you were just finishing. Can you tell our viewers about what happened?
We renovated a home in Waterbury, and about 3 days before the closing, somebody on a Friday afternoon went through the Habitat home, broke doors and windows, and not only our house, but 4 other homes in the neighborhood. And it was a dead-end, quiet neighborhood. We hadn't had any problems. And it just kind of was gut-wrenching because of all the volunteer hours. It takes about 2,500 man-hours of volunteers, person hours. Yes, I'm sorry about that. And person hours, and
Sure.
And it hurt. But the community rose up. We raised over $1,200 to make the necessary repairs.
To fix those.
But it kept the homeowner out of the house for another 3 weeks. We couldn't turn the house over in disrepair.
And when did this happen?
Just the end of October, beginning of November.
So they're in the home.
They're in the home.
Oh, wonderful. So it has a happy ending.
It always does.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
All that hard work.
Sure. And what are some of the other challenges that you have? I know that you're about to start on your 6th home.
Yeah, so renovating we found is different. Now we have to have safety equipment, we have to have masks, we have to have air handlers, we have to wear suits, because most of the homes have been built prior to 1974. So we just have
asbestos, is it?
Well, lead is the big
okay,
problem,
okay.
and asbestos. We wouldn't remove the asbestos, but with lead we have to have all that safety gear. So we do go to training classes on how to remove things, that type of material. Our construction team is very good about that. We usually don't have the volunteers in the demolition part of it, but so they're all set. We'll start reframing this house at 76 Oak Hill Avenue in Waterbury this Saturday.
Wow.
And we'll be working, we'll take the 24th off, but we'll be working the 10th and the 17th. And
That's
yeah,
great.
and we have hopefully we'll have the new family in by the end of March.
By the end of March, that's
Yep.
wonderful. So springtime. One thing I was going to also ask you is, do you have immigrant families that are trying to get their first home? Are those any of your?
Yeah, the family we're building now is from Puerto Rico. The next house, which will start in March or April, is a Haitian family. The cool things that they're here, they're working hard, and they're with children. Our current homeowner is the first time. Just gave birth yesterday.
Oh, wow.
their second child.
Very
so
nice.
we have a 3-bedroom house that they'll be moving into in March. So it's kind of exciting.
That's very exciting.
And the homeowner, we call them partner family. They were both there last Saturday working. So it's like.
I think one of the things that I remember about being a volunteer on the site and doing some of the construction is also the benefit of learning how to do a lot of this construction work. I learned sheetrocking. I learned some roofing. Is that still the case now that people?
Yeah,
can learn?
and that's the hardest part of my job, is getting our construction people to give up and be more teachers and foremen than actually doing the work. But we're getting really good at that. It was interesting. We had a group from Senator Murphy's office at one of our builds, and I had asked during the warm-up, have you been to a Habitat site? And one young lady raised her hand and said, yep. And I said, well, what did you do? Insulation. And she goes, that was a tough job. I guess what we're doing today.
So then she was the expert, right?
She was the expert.
Yeah. So you have, I understand, Habitat, probably international or at least national, has, I guess it's called Habitat Learns, and is that your online platform for volunteers to learn a little something, or at least staff?
Yeah, there's all kinds of information on the Habitat International website.
Including.
Yeah.
So is that something that you would think that people should also look at if they're interested in learning more about Habitat, or you think the Waterbury site, especially now that it's being redesigned, will give people locally what they need to know?
No, I would definitely go to the Habitat International website, and all you got to do is punch in Habitat for Humanity, and that will take you to the national website right away. I use that website to find out what's going on with a lot of things as well.
Sure. And then you were telling me, I think again before we were on air, about some of the other chapters just within Connecticut. Do you collaborate with the other chapters to sort of compare notes and
yeah, we get together 4 times a year. We're creating a statewide website. And it's really just an entry level, because people, so if you just put in a zip code and it will go to the Waterbury or the Hartford or New Haven affiliate,
And then you compare notes about what's going well, what's not going well, and
Hartford and Bridgeport, New Haven and Newland are like big brothers.
More established.
They've been around 20, 30 years. Waterbury, we reestablished in 2009. So to have 5 homes done in that
great.
amount of time and build an organization is something to put a feather in our cap for.
well, particularly because you're doing a number of renovations as well. And how many renovations did you mention?
Well, we're on our second renovation. We've built 4 homes from scratch. to date. You know?
And so is that something as well, if somebody was listening and they happen to have a property that they could donate, that's something you would be interested in?
Yeah, we'd be
discussing?
interested. And it doesn't have to be in Waterbury. We serve 11 communities.
So what are some of the other, so it's Waterbury and the sort of surrounding areas then?
Yep, Beacon Falls, Naugatuck, Middlebury, Southbury, Watertown, Wolcott,
Yeah.
Prospect. And so, yeah, we'd love to be building in some other towns.
Some of the other towns.
It'd be interesting. And the reason we're in Waterbury land is, and to get a building's a little less expensive. What would be better for the families if we were in these other towns, the mill rates are a little lower, so they would own the house sooner. We wouldn't have to subsidize the taxes that we pay in Waterbury.
Sure. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I was going to also ask you about what you have learned. Did you know much about construction, or did you also learn on the job by doing things?
Well, I'm not by no means the construction manager, but you do get good at certain things. My older brother was a builder. I chaired the school building project in Wolcott in 2000 and 2001. So I got to know about contractors and that type of thing. I'm a very frugal person, so we try to get as much as we can with the least amount of resources. So it'd be nice to have unlimited funds, but we don't. So we try to manage what we have very well.
Sure.
So yeah, you know, I like to paint. I've learned how to do siding, hang sheetrock, but we do hire tapers because that is the most important part of the interior work. We have a plumber on staff. The electricians, we usually go from different contractors and get their services donated. But what we try to do is not hit the same one for each build. So, and then that kind of builds good community as well.
And that's wonderful for those electricians to do that as well. I think that people who are their clients would like to know that they donate some of their time and services as well.
And the same with plumbing supplies and paint. We go to different places each time and ask for donations, or at least give us things at their cost. And most people do that once a year or once every couple of years. That's a
So just as we come up to year end this year, we have how many more families now in their own home this year, thanks to Waterbury Habitat?
Well, we got 2 new families in. We've done 4 Brush of Kindness projects this year. And
that's wonderful.
I think, and the other thing is we engage, each build engages about 150 different volunteers. And the community that we are really excited about are the high schools that are involved with us, and post-college and Naugatuck Valley, the prep schools in the area to get these kids out. We've had kids from all over the world on site. That's the really cool thing too.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and it's teaching the next generation about giving back, which is wonderful.
Well, I'm convinced that this younger generation is tired of the same old. I think they want to make a sincere difference in the community, and they're willing to give up time, and they're actually using their God-given talents and their education to give back more. I think there's something brewing in our communities.
I think so too, Keith. Thank you so much for being
on
with us. I hope our viewers will check out the website as well. And happy holidays.
Thank you very much. Thank you, folks.
This has been another episode of the NonProfit World TV show. I'm your guest host, Donna Hagiga, and our producer is Sara DeGraff. Thank you for joining us.